Hi, I'm Mara Webster with In Creative Company, and thank you for joining us for one of our talks today. I'm so excited today to be talking to the fantastic Steve Zahn all about everybody's new favorite obsession, the White Lotus. And I wanted to dive in by talking about working with Mike White on the series because he's created such a beautifully specific tone in terms of the comedy, the uncomfort, the way that it's also building tension throughout the entire series. And so coming into the project with him, I was really interested in conversations that you had with him early on and how he relayed this vision to you, or if that had any input in your performance at all as well.
Well, it was really clear to me. The script was everyone knew, everyone knew what they were doing. And we all knew what everyone else was doing. That's a great script, you know, and that opens the door for playing, basically. And tonally, I think we all kind of understood it without having to talk too much about it. And that's Mike as a writer and Mike as a director. And we had a conversation before for like a couple hours just talking about things, but it wasn't. I didn't need much, which is really cool and really fun. Sometimes it's a lot of shop talk before trying to figure out where everybody's coming from. And I remember at the beginning I was shooting some stuff, and I think I was a little too comedic because he was always bringing me down, and not down, but I mean pulling me back a little bit. I think the first scene I shot was at the counter where I was like, "Oh, my son and I want to do activities," and I was being kind of jokey and everything, and he was, and so I immediately knew, oh, okay, I got you, and that's all I needed. He just wanted it to be real. He kept saying, like, I just want it to be real, just be real.
And there's so many elements within this family dynamic where they're going on vacation. Everybody clearly has this idea of what they want and what they almost need this vacation to be for them as a family. With your character, it's really about building that bond and building that rapport with his kids, but particularly with his son and connecting with his wife in a particular way. And then throughout the series, obviously the veneer starts to kind of chip away more and more and more. And one of the elements in which it does that I thought was really interesting is the fact that his daughter has her friend Paula with her. And at the beginning, they all seem quite aware there's someone else who's not part of our family here, who's part of this dynamic. And then as time goes on, they stop really thinking about the fact that there's almost an outsider in their group with them, and that this is someone who's observing and watching and judging some of the things that they're saying. So for you in your performance, how did you think about the awareness of Paula at the beginning, and then how he just becomes less and less self-aware of himself as the veneer of the vacation starts to strip away?
Yeah, it's weird. That's a good point. I mean, I think the fact that this family isn't what he wants it to be, they're not really tight. They don't have a great time together. And so with this outsider present on their vacation, it seems fine. It doesn't seem like a big deal at all. They're all just acquaintances. You know what I mean? It only gets weird once things get kind of heavy and get serious and the conversations get a little deeper, and the layers are stripped off. I love the dinner where I'm like, well, let's talk about Paula. Well, what do you know about her? I know that she's a very attractive, smart person. Like all of a sudden he's confronted with like, what do you know about her? What do you know about me? What do you know about him? What do you know about? And I don't know if they can answer that question, to be honest with you. That vacation is it like his idea of his idea of family is so it's so sad. He's trying to to kind of like uh, put into what his idea, which is this some kind of weird, romantic idea of hanging out and being bros. He has no concept of what that is or how to do it, how to implement it, how to nurture it. And it's too late. That's what's sad. It's too late. And yet, even though it's too late, his son and him they do bond. They do have a moment. They do have subtle things that they do connect on. It's just underwater, which is kind of amazing. All of a sudden, you take out talking, and you're just with a breathing apparatus and with tortoises, and life is good. You know, but he's so screwed up. It's like the idea of like, hey, I don't know if it's in this episode. It's like, hey, maybe we can buy that boat now. We can be one of those boat families. Like as if that's going to solve everything. And then they're going to be a boat family, what is that? What does that mean? It's crazy.
It also feels like a lot of the spaces where his real want and desire to build that relationship with his son and to really evolve it comes from everything that he's confronting with his own father. And it really comes across that he's someone who was very close with his own dad and had a tight-knit relationship. And now he's realizing that that wasn't what he thought it was either. So how did you want to shape the relationship that he has with his dad and the way that it influences so many of his emotional decisions and actions throughout the show?
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, you know, man, he's having a bad week. I mean, my God, every day it's like it's just some huge thing that happens. It's funny, you know. But yeah, I mean, he by this idea of his dad, being gay and not knowing that and having this other life. But his dad was still his dad. He still thought his dad was amazing. So it's like, well, so so what? He didn't tell you some things, but you still had a great dad. I mean, as far as we know, because that's what you keep talking about. My dad was great. My dad was, let's go do stuff. He was still that guy. So he was gay, whatever. But yeah, Mark is lost, man. And then he thinks I'm being honest is just going to solve everything. I'm going to be really honest with you, man. Maybe that's it. He's actually telling his son, yeah, maybe if I'm honest, like his brain is moving and he's actually telling his son as his brain is trying to figure it out, as opposed to like thinking about it and then going to him and go like, you know what? I'm going to be honest with you. It's very interesting. He just wears his heart on his sleeve, and that's a beautiful thing. But it also gets you in trouble. He doesn't edit himself at all. Somebody who's just honest all the time could be a pain in the ass, right?
And obviously, within
Yeah.
confronting his relationship with his dad, he's also facing all of his healthcare scares as well at the beginning.
Right.
And I think one of the brilliant things about this show is the duality of what's happening in every single scene. And so when he is there having a complete breakdown, and it's really hilarious to watch him think that he's going to die, that he's got cancer, and to watch those scenes play out and the way that his family respond and just really are not taking him seriously at all. And then the underlying element of that scene being this is a man who actually genuinely is starting to question his own mortality and the fact that one day he won't be there for his kids and what that means for his family dynamic and all of these things all within that scene. And for you, are you thinking about the duality and those different elements between the comedic tone and the vulnerability of this character that you're playing in a lot of those moments? Or was it something that came very naturally because of the way all of it was written?
Yeah, I think it's more naturally the way it was written. I don't try to overthink things. I mean, I'm very kind of, when I work, I don't know. I hate hearing myself talk about how I work, but I'm really, it's pretty simple. I over prepare so that I can live in the moment, right? I don't spend a lot of time thinking of backstories and all these different and how to manipulate that. I wouldn't be there if that wasn't, I felt already there. Like an audience is going to pick that up. So my job is just to be in the moment and make it real and make it interesting, you know? and play little moments. That's the beauty of film, man. You can just play tiny moments. And then you hope a director or an editor picks that up and goes like, oh, what a great look. What an interesting pause. We got to, no, don't cut away from that. That's great. You know?
I think that's wonderful. And did that dynamic inform the way that you worked with Connie Britton as well? Because obviously you're playing these two characters with such an extensive and emotionally convoluted history with each other, even before we meet them in the show. But again, is it kind of like what you were just saying, where it was just very much about feeding off that instinct with each other and playing to the small
Totally.
moments?
Yeah, she was amazing. I mean, we're old war horses. Um, we put her on the block and know what we're doing. And it's just so fun to go to work with someone that you completely trust and who is that inventive and just, I didn't know what she was going to do, you know? And we would rehearse a scene and then she would do it and it would just be like so beautiful and so like, heartfelt. And it's freaking easy when you work with people like that. It's easy, you know?
Some of the scenes that felt really interesting with their dynamic as well are the moments where you're watching them have a certain dynamic with each other, and you can tell that this has been them 10 times, 20 times, 100 times, such as when she's reorganizing the entire room to get better feng shui in the hotel room. And he's just kind of standing back because he's seen this before and he's seen it play out. And so, how did the two of you find those elements of where you felt the really familiar space was going to be in that sort of way? And when you felt that your character would also just give her the space that she needed sometimes.
I don't know. I think Mark kind of gives everybody their space all the time. You know what I mean? Like he's just kind of along for the ride, it seems like so much of the time. You know, he does comment on it, like, honey, what are you doing? Stop. But in the end, she's like, she runs the show, man. She's the one. She's the breadwinner. She's the rule maker. She's the one that, calls the shots. And I think he's cooler with that than his kids think. I don't know. Maybe he's not. I don't know. But
What's so interesting to watch, because he's so supportive of it in so many ways, but you can see small moments where it affects him because he is having this whole internal crisis about feeling like his family doesn't respect him, and looking at everything that
right.
she has career wise and seeing that as a really natural flow for her kids to look at her in a certain way, even if that's not necessarily the dynamic that exists. And so how did you set about thinking about his own relationship with what masculinity means to him, because he is going through a bit of a crisis in terms of he's saying one thing but that's not necessarily always the truth?
Right. Or he thinks it's the truth. Yeah, he says it's very revealing when he says like, and I bought her, it was $75,000, with my money, you know. He has to say it's with my money. Why, so obviously he has like hangups about stuff like that, but I don't know. These are all amazing questions that, this simple-minded guy just kind of like, I don't know. It's good. You should have been there before the shoot and had this conversation. It would have helped me a lot. My God.
I'll come down for pre-production on the next
But it's
job.
true. Yeah, it's great. I'll call you up. I'm like, okay, here's the deal. I'm playing a pirate and he's afraid of the ocean or whatever. But I truly, I really do, I get excited about the play of the day. What's the play of the day? The play of the day is me sitting drunk, talking to somebody at a bar. I'm going to play that scene. It makes me laugh. So I'm going to play it that way. Now, it's not really my job to like make sure it fits into the grand scheme of things, or that it follows the last scene I was in. I hate it when a director goes like, no, remember, you were really upset back there. And I go, yeah, I know. Well, this scene, I'm not. You wrote it, like, or whoever wrote it. It doesn't say like he's really upset still. It's a totally different scene, I know that just happened, but that's not my job. My job is to make this happen right now. And so as an actor, I put a lot of trust in a director, in a DP, in an editor. You know, it's the beauty of it. So that's my excuse to not answer your question in a really smart way.
No, I love it, and I think it's great because it's such an instinctual way to really find the core of a lot of scenes. And I love that you brought up the drunk scene at the bar because it's so comedically fantastic, and was just interested in the journey and what that looked like in terms of filming that scene where he's really just letting it all out, and also just finding his drunk persona.
Yeah, it's a guy who's already too honest for his own good, and then he's buzzed on top of it, which is just the worst.
It's like
That
turned
scene,
it up to 11.
oh, when I read that, I laughed so hard. I thought, oh my God, this is such a great, this would be so fun. And Mike writes, there's so much of the time you watch the show, you feel like you're watching a play. It's like Tennessee Williams. It's like he's such a, the, the scene between Alex and Connie where she's like, yeah, I'm a writer. Oh, what do you write? Oh, you wrote that piece. It's like 6 minutes long. It's like it's very theatrical. So you really can, there was never anybody going like, all right, come on, let's pick it up. And that's the beauty of doing these kind of like, limited series. You get 6 hours to tell a story. There's not that crunch, like we have to fit everything in. So you let things breathe, and if they work, great, take something else away, let this live. So Mike was very patient. Everyone was really patient and just kind of did such an amazing job. I mean, look, you're in gigs, it doesn't always, even the good ones are like, yeah, well, that aspect didn't work that great. Yeah, that person's not, didn't work. This show, it's like everybody is so fantastic. It was really joy. And I knew that in the moment. But watching it like I'm not in it, I watch it like I haven't seen the end of the show. It's really interesting. It's just fun to be in, for sure. It's fun to be in a water cooler show. I can't remember the last time I was in something where everybody was talking about it. It's fun. Yeah.
And speaking of water, I actually randomly also wanted to ask you about shooting the scenes where he's going and getting scuba certified, because is it Crimson Tide where you had a really terrible experience shooting underwater scenes? And so it's actually something that it sounds like you don't necessarily love doing. So I was interested in how that worked with having to shoot these scenes on the series.
Yeah, I was really scarred by that event in Crimson Tide. I mean, we had it was a horrible, we had to shoot that the submarine was sinking and they built it inside a train car. It was on a train. It was in the Culver City pool. And to simulate the water rising, they just sunk it, And so the cameras were on one end. There's only one way to get out, but it went underwater for 30 seconds, and then it hit the bottom, and then they'd reverse it and come back up. And, anybody can hold their breath for 30 seconds. It's easy. But when you're pretending to die and your adrenaline is rushing, 30 seconds is like 5 minutes. Oh man, it was a horrible night. I got pneumonia. I was swallowing water, So when I got to the scuba, long story short, so I got to the scuba thing, and Mike was like, I think it would be fun if you guys really got your PADI license, like in the show, and we'll shoot some of that, And I was like, yeah, all right. So you have to take the test, the online test, and every minute of your training is ways that you can die underwater, which just gave me a little bit of anxiety on top of the anxiety I already had. So I told my guy, I was like, hey, dude, I'm not into this, but I have to for my job. And Fred was kind of the same way. And so when we passed it, we were like, awesome, we're done. Now we can just, but we did that shot, that scene where we're underwater. It was beautiful. It's so much fun. I'll do
Well,
anything on top of the water. I'll surf, you know, hydrofoil, water ski, just under.
is the limit.
Yeah. Yeah, I
And you
don't
were
want to
talking,
go to space.
yeah.
I have no, I have no urge to go into outer space with Bezos.
Me neither. And you were bringing up the theatricality of a lot of the scenes and talking about a lot of the dinner scenes. And what's so great is the way that there's so many scenes where all of the guests are outside having dinner at the restaurant together. So we really get this complete bird's eye view of every single character's dynamic within singular scenes. So I was very interested in what it looked like when you were all filming those huge scenes as such an ensemble, especially because there's coverage of every single character, both your whole family as a group, but also the individual dynamics are coming in, and then they're also capturing that with every single other group at the tables.
Yeah, that was really fun because most of the time when we were shooting, we were separated. When we were doing, our suite, we did all the scenes in our suite for 8 days, and we didn't see anybody else. So the dinner scenes were fun because we could all kind of hang together and play. Even if you were in the background, it was just fun. And usually dinner scenes are a pain in the ass. It just takes forever and the camera goes around and around and around and around. It just takes forever. But these were a blast. I mean, they were just because it was so well written and fun. And, we're in Hawaii, you know, but they were great. And he just let us play. You know, a lot of the improv was very minute, but it was really fun. Yeah.
And with the incredibly extensive number of characters and projects that you've taken on over the years, were there aspects of this which you felt were providing learning curves or new skills or new challenges for you as an actor?
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, that's always the case. I mean, you already hope it is. Um, if you keep open, they're all learning experiences. But this one was just so unique, just in how it was structured because of COVID. I mean, we were all there. No one could leave. The crew, the extras, everybody was there. I Usually everybody's kind of going off on their, after a day's work. We'd wrap and the crew would go grab a beer at the bar and continue their wrap, which was really easy because no one was getting in trucks. And it was really a unique experience. I mean, it was really kind of like film camp, you know. Fred and I would sit in my room and just work on our scenes over and over and over, you know. What really ideal out of this horrible event that was happening and still is happening was this amazing experience in this beautiful place with these exquisite actors. And it was one of the best experiences I've ever had. Even if the show wasn't popular, it still would have been, you know. And you go, wow, how could this would be great to kind of outside of COVID and all that. If that's what being on location is so much fun. I love being on location. I love being a part of this circus. You know, all the other stuff I don't really care about, but I love to work. And I love being around people that inspire me and are fun, you know. And this was just, you know, 10 times it usually is. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think when you described the show earlier as a water cooler moment of a show, it's absolutely a testament to what you and the rest of the cast have brought forward throughout the entire series. And I'm so excited to see the final installment. And thank you so much, Steve.
Yeah. Thank you. This is a great conversation.